Welcome to Her Life Unscripted podcast, inspiring burnt out, stressed out, and stretched thin women to embrace the unscriptedness of life. Hosted by Anna Osborne.
Hello, lovelies. It is Anna Osborne with Her Life Unscripted, episode 44. It's a good day to be here with all of you. I set the intention for February. I shared, I think it was the last show, episode 43, that January was a very, very busy month. There was a lot of work, project, wrapping up, starting new goal setting. And then I did some travel with the family. I did some travel with my girlfriends that I've been friends with since elementary school, if you can believe that. And then I did a short work trip with some fellow colleagues where we just literally holed up in a house for a few days and worked on projects uninterrupted. And it was beautiful with these gorgeous, remarkable views of the Napa Valley. So I have really set this attention for February to not be a flyover month, for it to be some slowing down, some being able to just enjoy the projects that I have worked on and create some space before I dive into some new ones. So the main thing I'm focusing on right now is obviously just producing the podcast, and that has been really, really awesome. Also, we have had this month, February, that each episode is movie inspired. And it's been really funny doing that because, first of all, I love being able to take away things from experiences I have, whether it's a song, a movie, a book, a conversation with a friend. Like I love being able to deepen and expand on what that experience was like. But I'm not a big movie watcher. My husband, it absolutely drives him crazy that I don't watch movies because I don't know if that's true for a lot of women. A lot of women I talk to are not good movie watchers, just sitting down and being still for that amount of time. They get a little restless, which to me, when I say it out loud, like that's ridiculous. Why can't we sit down for a few hours and watch a movie? But I think that one of the reasons I'm not a good movie watcher is because I have a hard time sitting still. It is something I'm constantly practicing. And the other is that I have been doing therapy. I've been a psychotherapist and seeing clients for 13 years now. It'll be 13 years in August from when I saw my first client. And I run 50-minute sessions. And so my body has this natural rhythm that about the 45-minute mark, my body naturally starts shifting, right? It's going, okay, the session is ready to close. We want some time to kind of reflect on what we spoke about, some takeaways, and also some ways to implement throughout the week when I'm working with whether it's clients or couples. And so about that 45-minute mark, I start to get restless. And there's not a lot of movies out there that are 45 minutes. And so I have this natural rhythm to my body now that has been, instilled over and over for years and years of sitting in the psychotherapist chair. And so it has made me the worst movie watcher. And whenever I'm, really being mindful of my husband, I will offer to watch a movie with him because I know he just loves it, being able to slow down on the couch together and watch something. So it is just funny to me that I have a whole month dedicated to movies that have inspired me and relevant current movies, ones that are like within the last year of being out. I think the other thing too is that within the last probably 6 months, I've started taking my kids to the movies on a more regular basis. I mean, I've taken them 3 times in the past 9 months. So for me, that feels very regular, but there's been some movies out that I wanted to see, and it's kind of a fun thing to do with the kids. It's kind of a treat and going to the movies, and they really love it. So therefore, I have become super relevant in the current time around some movies. So it's just been funny to be able to kind of reflect on that. The other thing that's been really cool about your guys' feedback about these past couple episodes is your encouragement of, yes, these are movie inspired episodes, but they have really nothing to do with the movie. It's this line, this song, this dialogue that really created a place of pause or reflection for me. And so that's been kind of cool too, of going, all right, Anna, you're saying these are movie inspired, but it's just this small takeaway, but it is a fun way to tie everything together. So that is what we are continuing on for the rest of this month. And today's episode is inspired by the movie Bad Moms. Which again, hang with me and let me take you through it for a moment to be able to share kind of why that is relevant and where we're going to go with it. So I watched Bad Moms with my husband. And for those of you that have seen it, it is very much kind of old school humor, old school as in the movie, just over the top, very exaggerated, very just crazy. And, the episode or the scene, for those of you who have seen it, where they're walking through the grocery store and just going crazy, right? They're like eating things and throwing things and just having a ball and just going nuts. Hysterical, right? There were so many parts of the movie that were like, oh my gosh, this is so over the top. And then I realized as I'm watching this movie with my husband, I got deeply, deeply sad to where I was really moved to tears in the movie. And I know that sounds nuts for a movie that is obviously supposed to be super comedy, right? But what's interesting is I've shared that reflection with a couple women in my life, more than a couple, a number of them, and they nodded their heads in agreement when I said that I was deeply saddened by the movie. And the reason I was so saddened by the movie is because there was, well, first of all, if we think about any movie that's made, there's got to be enough truth to it, enough common knowledge that this is a thing for it to be, for it to be a relevant movie, right? Like you can't make, I mean, I guess you can, but making a movie that doesn't connect with anything to anybody, you're not going to make millions of dollars, right? And so obviously with Bad Moms, the whole premise of it is this way that we are, especially as women, and not even just as moms, as women, right? As wives, as sisters, as partners, as daughters, that we are pushing ourselves and pushing ourselves and pushing ourselves to be everything for everybody else, which leaves us being nothing for ourselves, right? And so what brought me so much sadness during the movie was recognizing if they had enough stuff, if they had enough material to make an entire movie out of this, like that part to me was sad. If they had enough examples of one-liners, of scenes, of dialogue around this universal truth that us as women get messages that we are bad, that we're not good enough, that we're not deserving because we aren't meeting this unrealistic Stepford example, that we're really bad, right? Obviously the premise of the movie is Bad Moms, is the moms that don't give an F anymore and are like, we're just going to live life like we're going to live life. And so to me, that made me so sad because it's going, wait a second, we have enough material to create this movie that made millions of dollars. And it was funny, right? There was parts of it, but the other part of me was so sad that we had enough material because it's just that true. It's just that universally known that there is an expectation out there for women to be so much, to do everything for everybody else. And I'm not just talking about putting others first. I'm saying stopping being aware of your own needs, becoming a robot, and going through the motions in order to meet whoever's expectation has been put out there. And to me, that's so sad, right? Because A, there was enough material to create a movie about it. It's that universally true. It's that universally known. It's that universally accepted. And the other part about it was also the isolation that happens when we are buying into this idea that being everything for everyone else is the way it should be, rather than recognizing that that leaves us being nothing to ourselves. Like that part to me just absolutely stood out as, oh my gosh, I am absolutely devastated by that, right? So if this is so universal, if this idea of bad mom, and I don't care if it's bad wife, bad sister, bad daughter, whatever it is, if this idea is out there and it's so universally true that all of us can watch a movie like that and we can kind of laugh, but we can also nod our head like, oh crap, I thought that too, or I felt that pressure too. If that's so universal, then why are we so isolated by that? Right? Like if I'm having those fears or feeling those judgments, feeling those criticisms, whether they're coming from the outside or the head trash or wherever it's coming, then, and I know that universally that you're experiencing that too, then why are we so distant from each other, right? Why can't we have that open dialogue of, I'm struggling with this too. I want to reject that standard. I want to reject that expectation. I want to reject that norm because I can't do that anymore. Right? Like, let's have a dialogue about that. That's the piece that I really took away from it, is if this is universally true, if there's enough content to make a movie about it that we all nodded at parts in huge agreement with, then why are we so isolated by it? Right? It's like the two don't go together for me. If we all have experienced this, then why don't we talk about it? If we're all living this, breathing this, impacted by it, why are we silent? Why can't I go to you in a very honest, vulnerable way and say, you know what? There are times at the end of the day where I have worried that I'm screwing up my kids. Right? That I was more impatient than I'm proud to admit. I was more dismissive than I'm comfortable with. And I feel like I'm screwing up. Why can't I say that? Well, I guess I just did say that. But why can't we use that as a place that actually creates connection versus me saying that and you nodding your head in agreement and then going, well, you know what I heard Anna say? She probably is a pretty cruddy mom. Right? Like that it then becomes chatter or back talk or gossip around a dig, a criticism, like, right? Like I can't be emotionally vulnerable knowing that you're just going to then turn it and use it as a way to feel better about yourself. Like that doesn't work for me. So that piece was huge for me. And just to shift gears a little bit, I grew up in the Monterey Bay area. And so lots of fog, lots of, we didn't see the sunlight a lot. When the sunlight came out, it was like, the fog would roll out at like 11 in the morning and then the fog would roll back in at like 3 o'clock. So like from 11 to 3, you've got those 4 hours of sunlight and otherwise there's lots of fog. And so with living near the coast and living with lots of fog, you get lots of moisture. Well, my mom is allergic to mold. And, it took her years to figure out what these allergies were kind of, brought on by, because in my parents' early years of being married, they lived in the desert. My dad's in farming. And so they would live kind of, in Arizona and more the Central Valley and things like that. And then his job took him up to where I grew up, which was in the Monterey, Salinas Valley. And so for her, it took a long time to figure out, like, why am I chronically getting bronchitis, asthma, like these allergies, right? And she finally figured out it was mold. Well, we know that mold grows in damp, moist places. And so what we had to do in our house growing up is we had to remove the carpet, because having just the carpet and the moisture in the air from the fog and being near the coast, it created mold. Even though we couldn't see it, it was just this dampness, right? But by removing the carpet, it was more open. There wasn't that moisture that could be absorbed in the carpet, therefore creating mold, therefore making my mom sick. And so we think about this idea of isolation, right? And I think about the mold, right? Like, what grows in isolation? What grows in deep, dark, unlit corners? Toxicity, right? Things that make you sick, mold, right? Like, that's what grows in isolation. And the same is true for our lives, that when we are having those self-critical thoughts, when we're reading self-critical messages, when we are hopping on Pinterest and seeing the picture perfect version of how we should have our child's birthday party, or our spouse's birthday, or, I got a new house and so I need to have it perfect before I'm going to welcome you over for dinner, which really should just be pizza and, some semi-cold beers, right? Like, that when we jump on those things, we're filling ourselves with isolation. We're filling ourselves with this toxicness of how it should be rather than how it is. And that's what that movie Bad Moms really brought out for me, is that there are really twisted, sick, creepy things that grow in isolation. And that when I'm struggling with something and I don't feel like I can come to you and talk about it, that's disconnection, that's isolation. And so what grows for me? My insecurities, my self-criticisms, my unrealistic expectations, my belief of how it should be rather than how it is. Because I'm staying in that dark, deep, icky corner, I'm letting the mold grow, right? And for me, when I recognize a choice in something, and I know I shared this a few episodes ago, and I'm sure I've shared it in previous episodes, that for me, when I recognize there's a choice in something, like when I'm very clear of you're going right, you're going left, but you have the choice to go either way, I am overwhelmed by the relief that I feel. It's like this whoosh, it's this letdown of like, holy smokes, I can breathe again because I now have choice, right? Before I felt like I was stuck in the way that it is, but now I have choice. And the other part that happens for me is I also panic a little bit. Like, oh crap, now what do I do with it, right? Like, I believe that we have great power. We have great power, right? But we have choice of how we use it. I can use my great power for good or for evil, but it's a choice. Right? And so there's a part of me that's like a panic of like, oh crud, I've now recognized this great power that I have to create connection, to break isolation, to speak out about this universally joining toxic expectation that we have to be perfect in order to be good, right? That I can speak out about that, or I can go, you know what? People may not like that, right? Or people may go, oh, well, that's great, but after you leave, we're going to talk about the fact that you're slacking, right? But when I recognize that, like, I have great power, you have great power, what choice do you make from it? That to me feels like the truth of what this is all about, right? That really is how we are portrayed. We create a movie about something that is so universally true, and yet we're not talking about it. And what was so cool when I shared with my friends that I was going to record this episode and that it was inspired by Bad Moms, the way they so quickly connected with those same takeaways that I did was so cool to me, because it was exactly the anecdote to what we're talking about, right? The anecdote to isolation is conversation. The anecdote to self-criticism is acceptance of others, right? Like those, like we're using these anecdotes to recognize I am no longer accepting the norm that I have to be enough. I have to be the shoulds. I have to be all those things in order to be deserving of connection. And that the messages that you put on me as mom, wife, sister, daughter, cousin, aunt, niece, friend, like the expectations that you put on me, you, right? You within society, you within my head trash, like you, whoever you is, I'm not buying it anymore. Like, I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid because I don't want those pieces in my life anymore. I want the connection. I want to feel like we are using each other to help each other rise up rather than saying, nope, you know what? You're not doing it right. So therefore you're not part of my team. And so for me, that is hugely important, especially right now, given where we're at politically, where we're at socially. The easier choice is to go, you're different than me. It's your problem, not mine. Boom, distance, rejection. That's the easier thing, right? Rather than recognizing that us as humans, us as women, we're all in the same experience. Doesn't matter what we look like. Doesn't matter where we live. As women, we are universally connected, and the differences of where we live, what we look like, who we worship, like those things, those differences actually enhance our ability to make us stronger, to make us more connected, to make us more knowledgeable, more educated. And let's use those experiences as something to kill the isolation, to get rid of the mold, to tear out the carpet, to put in the hardwood floors so that we don't have crap growing in dark, unlit corners. So that is it. That's my message to you of really being able to move to that space of, I'm not buying into the isolation. I want to be so clear of what actually grows in isolation that I can actually reject it and move away from it. Because if I'm scared to look of what's growing inside of me when I'm isolated, that means more and more garbage is growing, more head trash, right? More expectations, more sense of feeling like you've got to be something in order to be enough. And so I encourage you, in listening to this episode, what are the ways that you can actually explore that isolation and be very, very curious about what's growing there, and know that reaching out for connection, reaching out, putting a voice to it is actually what helps kill the mold, kill the toxic, right? Saying this no longer works for me, ripping out the carpet, creating that whoosh of breath and letting it be something that no longer is bigger than you, no longer is tied inside you, but it's actually bigger than you because it's connected to somebody else, and that is power. So that is my message to all of you today. I can't wait to hear what you found growing in isolation and what you are doing to get rid of it. I cannot wait for that. And from the bottom of my heart, I need all of you to hear that you are exactly enough in this moment, that you are deserving of love and acceptance, and that by no longer buying into that standard, that expectation of having to be enough in order to deserve, it's no longer working. So I appreciate your guys' time. Please do send your audio feedback in via the SpeakPipe app, or you can always email me to Anna@herlifeunscripted.com. And like I said last episode, we have opened up the registration for the Shine Retreat for Women, and I'm so excited to see that list growing. I cannot wait to meet all of you. So do head over to shineretreatforwomen.com if you are interested in attending Mari and I's retreat at the end of September. We would love to have you there. If you have questions that aren't clear within the information that we've provided, please email us to info@shineretreatforwomen.com. I'll have all of those notes in the show notes, or all those links. But yeah, shoot us a question. If there's something that you're going, hey, I'm wondering about this, or is this going on? Email us. We're super happy to answer that, and we're pretty quick with the response. So I can't wait to see you all there. Thank you so much for letting me into your world, into your hearts. It is truly, truly an honor, and one that I am very, very humbly grateful for. Take care, ladies. Talk to you all soon.
Want to learn about the latest retreats, workshops, and speaking events hosted by Anna? Head over to herlifeunscripted.com to get in on all the juicy details. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast so we can continue to grow our amazing audience. Lastly, be sure and send in your voice feedback via the SpeakPipe app or to Anna@herlifeunscripted.com. We can't wait to hear from you.